Yeah, that's right. And Isaiah was what, 500 years after Moses?
Yeah, I think so, something like that. Isaiah
Something like that.
Isaiah lived in one of the most uh, wonderful times of history that you can imagine. I would have loved to have gone back to, oh, let's say roughly 500 years BCE, because there was Isaiah, there was the Buddha,
Yeah,
there was,
yeah,
it was right after Confucius and Lao Tzu and all those people. There was something really great going on in different
right.
nationalities, all at that same kind of time. And
Yeah,
I just
Ezekiel,
wonder how much the crossover was.
for sure. And in my book, UFOs in the Bible, I talk about a lot of those. Ezekiel and Isaiah and
Mhm.
Jeremiah was also in that time period,
Yeah,
where it seems like there was a lot of UFO sightings happening at that
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah,
And as these guys are writing down their experiences, we're then looking at them trying to go, well, what was this?
yeah,
And
yeah. And
you know,
that was also the very same time that the Hebrew scriptures were being really written down in the form that we have them right now. Around that same time, they were, of course, the texts are much older, but in the form that we have them, they were kind of codified, so to speak, around that same kind of time, the fourth century, the 500s BCE. So there seems to be something going on at that point, and which makes me very suspicious also when I read about the Bible code, for instance. Is there a code written into the scriptures? And
mm,
if so, could it have come when the scriptures in the form that we have them were written down? And if so, it was obviously a computer type generated code. Who had computers 500 BC, or in the fourth century BCE? So it makes you
yeah.
wonder.
Well, I wonder if Moses had a computer.
Yeah.
There's some evidence there that seems to suggest it. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff to jump in on for sure.
Before we get too far away from that, I think when we read about the Exodus, here was Moses, for instance, talking to the Egyptian leader, Pharaoh, saying, "Let my people go." And eventually, after the 10 plagues, Pharaoh says, "Yeah, go, get out of here." And so he goes. And with them, they, of course, have the Ark of the Covenant. It was built that time in the desert. All of a sudden, Pharaoh changes his mind. And he says, "Wait a minute, I got to go after them." Could it be that Pharaoh understood that when Moses left Egypt, or of that kind of thing, could it have been that Moses left with a technology that Pharaoh didn't want him to have, or that Pharaoh missed? He didn't have it anymore. Could that have been the technology that the
Right.
people of Israel carried off into the desert? It's a fascinating thought. Of course, that takes us into the Ark of the Covenant, which is a whole other discussion.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have a whole, probably an hour talk about the Ark of the Covenant.